So I'm an undergraduate on my third year for Cal State San Bernardino, and I heard about Robertson Institute from my mentor. I've already done research using water filtration using activated charcoal, and I've always been interested in studying abroad and eventually living outside the United States and further working in science in another country. And my mentor knew about this and she decided that I would be interested. And she prompted the idea of, hey, you should research at Robertson Institute over the summer. So I decided, yeah, I'm going to do that because I wanted to get my foot in the door. I wanted to put my name out there in an, you know, outside of the United States. So when I applied, I did get accepted, which has been probably the best thing ever, I would say. So in general, I've always been interested in science. It's been a big part of my life. My dad is a microbiologist, he has his master's, and I was always super curious about the world. I would ask about anything that I would see. I would ask why is the sky blue? Why does this rock look like that? And my dad was always super keen on just answering my questions whenever he could. And eventually I realized that I could do that same thing too. I can be just like my dad. I can research, I can answer I can answer questions that nobody knows about if I put in the work and ask the right kind of questions. So later on in my life, I decided to get into biochemistry as my major. And here I am right now. So my main takeaway from researching at Robertson Institute these past weeks is that I'm definitely gonna get into a graduate program. Once I graduate from my undergrad, I really want to continue what I've been doing here because I've enjoyed every moment that I've been here. The PhD students that I've been with have been more than helpful. Working I've been working every day, learning so many things and learning just completely different fields of study outside of what I probably would have ever learned if I just stayed in the United States and did my own research. I'm trying to say that researching at Robertson Institute, it provides like a great number of opportunities for students because you're researching in an entire different country, a new environment, new people, new perspectives. And the United States, as big as it is, you're not going to always get the same exact experience. Even if you go to every single city in the entire United States, it's just completely different being here. And even with how Robertson Institute carries itself, that is important enough.